Hey all, Andy here. Happy Thursday, helping you build a career you love. Great to see you. Today I got a great session on 2 major questions you want to ask in your job interview. It's more than 2 simple questions. It's really a way to control the interview, whether that's a position you're interviewing for with a company or an informational interview or any type of discussion that you're in. This is the secret to getting that job. So I got a great talk. We're going to learn about those. We're going to walk through how you can add these to your arsenal. Get in the chat. If you're here with me, say hi. Put some question marks in front of your questions. Let me know where you're from, what you need, because when we're done with the teaching portion of today, we're going to go into a great Q&A. I always love to say hi to everybody who joins me. Caitlin, great chatting with you before the show started. And my mom is here, and Adam Stark, and Varun, my brother from another mother from Canada. How are you doing? Great to see you. Word Dog, another Canadian. Clem, Ian, Natalie, great to see you. Matt Tower, and everybody else. So, this session today is well, it's more than just 2 simple questions to ask, because it's really the usage and why you want to be able to get your job interviews going in this discussion. And this came about because I was doing a coaching session last week with a woman. I do probably somewhere between 10 to 12 individual coaching sessions every week. Sometimes it's a little more. It's not usually a little less, but this particular woman she is a customer strategist, customer experience strategist, everything that goes along with customer success, customer service, the implementation of the right practices, as well as managing, monitoring the metrics, the dashboards, and everything that goes with it. And we were doing a coaching session, and she was talking about some interviews that she was going on, and we were examining the way that she was interacting with them in the back half of the interview, and some of the questions that she could be asking to better hone in on what they need and how to score more points. So it got me thinking. We talked about some of this. I wanted to bring it to you. Now, in general, when you want to sell anything, so you're selling yourself in a job interview, we've got this expression in sales about selling to the gap, right? What is it that the customer needs? Basically explain to them how whatever your product, your service, or anything that you're going to offer them is going to help them either fix that problem or support their ability to attain that aspiration. And that's a good way to go, right? I talk with you about this in your interviews about trying to identify generally what the challenges and the goals are that the employer has, knowing in advance what those likely are for your position, how you highlight those things on your resume that you've already solved those challenges and those issues with former employers, which is a good indication that you'll be able to do it for them. And all of that is very good, and it's aimed at getting you a better understanding of the goals of the company, the goals of your position type, right? I've talked about in the past about how a marketer, for example, your goal as a marketer, no matter who you are on the marketing team, is to help a company increase their brand awareness, right? Increase their brand awareness so it's easier to surface prospects, so that ultimately the salespeople will have an easier time selling to those prospects, right? If you were like my coaching client, as a customer success director or executive or whatever, your goal is what? To implement practices and protocols, processes that ultimately help increase customer success. Or if you are a customer service manager, you want to increase customer satisfaction. Those are the goals. And when you think about your position and moving toward an employer and targeting them as a prospect for you and how you're going to bring your services to them, most of the time you can think in terms of goals. And as a matter of fact, maybe you were with me on Tuesday morning, October 4th, 2022 at precisely 6:30 a.m. Central Time, where I released a video on how to show your value to employers so you get hired. And in there, I talked about what I'm mentioning right now. How do you identify what the goals are of my particular position so that I can support my resume and my interview stories to do that? And I want you to follow along with me here, because I want to take this today and I want to take us down a notch to get more narrow in your ability to make sure that you can highlight why you're the best job candidate for the job. but I want to use an analogy here. When you think about, show of hands, give me a hi in the chat. Maybe just raise your hand in the chat. Most of you here are job searching. Am I right? Right? Like most of you are. Some of you are here learning ways to develop your career and asking me questions about that. But most of the time, most of the people that show up at my Thursday live show are job searching, right? Can I get a show of hands? And would you say that your goal is to find a job? Maybe you don't have a job, you want to find a job. Maybe you have a job, you want a better job. Maybe you need to move to a new city, you want to find a job, right? Can I get a hey? Most of you, that is your what? Goal. Except that you all have the same goal, but you all have different problems, right? Think in terms of your problems. What if you're the recent college graduate who doesn't know how to actually find the job that she wants, or you're not sure which career path to take? That's a different problem. You still want to get a job, right? Or maybe you get some interviews, but you don't pass the job interviews. Maybe you're a stay-at-home mom trying to get back to the workforce, or maybe you want to change careers, or maybe you're an executive and you're interviewing for CEO positions, right? Or maybe you just simply want to change companies. Maybe you want to move countries. Maybe you've been stuck at your organization for 20 years. You never left, you never job searched, and now you're coming out into the market for the very first time. Wouldn't you say that you all have the same goal, but you have different problems? Right? Is there a clear distinction here? There is a reason that I have a testimonials page for my job search coaching program that is a mile long, and it has different sections with different people types in it. Some are young, some are middle, some are older, some moved countries, some left their companies for the first time after 3 decades, some were sunsetting their businesses and moving into a full-time employment role. Some were executives, right? There's a whole host of different challenges because what? You can have a goal that's as big as the Grand Canyon. I need to find a job. You all have that goal. But the set of problems that you have make my ability to help you more effective for you to understand how I can, well, Andy, does it work in Scandinavia? Does it work for 40-year-old Swedish women? Right, kind of thing. So now we got to get down to the narrowest of gaps. So first thing I want you to think about is I want you to sell to the gap, but I want you to sell to the narrowest of gaps. And knowing how to build IT systems is a huge gap, right? I don't want you to walk into the interview and try to hit the dartboard. I want you to hit the center of the dartboard. Anybody who's in the interview can hit the dartboard, probably blindfolded, right? They know you've got the qualities, but the person who gets the job, or at least the one who has a greater likelihood of getting that job, is the one who can hit the center of the dartboard. And in order for you to hit the center of the dartboard, you need to know what the center of the dartboard is. All right, who's tracking with me so far, right? You all have the same goals, but you all have different problems. Companies have the same goals. Their marketing department, right, wants to increase their brand awareness, generate more leads, right? But the problems and the way in which they would achieve that might be different. And if you go into a job interview and you don't know what their problems are, that is a problem for you, right? Okay, who gets where I'm going with this, right? You want to sell to the gap, but you want to sell to the narrowest gap that you possibly can. Because I could have an individual conversation with each one of you regarding how all the problems of job searching have been solved up here already. They're in the bucket up here. But I need to pull them out and explain to you how you would solve your problem and why I know that to be true and the case studies that I have and so on. Okay, so the first problem that I want you to, first question that I want you to think of asking is, what problems do you have? And I mean specifically, right? So if you are interviewing and you sit down and they say, tell me about yourself and all that, you're going to have some speculation as to what the problems are, because they should be highlighted in the job description in the way of responsibilities and skill sets. And between the combination of that, you can sort of get an idea of what kind of problems you're going to be solving. and what the goals might be. But the earlier on in the conversation that you can get to what are the specific challenges you're having in attaining your goals, the sooner you're going to be able to show them how you can actually satisfy them. Because there's a huge difference between, if I said to you, I got 100,000 people signed up for my program, I've solved all their job searching problems. That's great. And you might start to feel comfortable, but you're going to feel much, much better when I say, oh, well, there was this college student, her name was Susie. She was 22 years old and stepping out into the world for the first time to get her first time professional job. And I take you through the steps of how I solved her problem, right? It's very, very different. It's very, very different. Okay, so I want you to get your pens and your notes, scribble board handy, because we're going to learn some cliches today, okay? Actually, they're follow-on questions. Now, when to pull this out? Well, you can pull it out early if they start talking to you about, well, here's what we're looking for, here's what we need. So, okay, well, what are your biggest challenges specifically in attaining that, right? Get them to start talking about that. But maybe they don't start there. Maybe they start asking you some questions, and you're going to do your best to speculate based on that video I showed you before on how to show your value to employers. But as you get the opportunity to ask questions, and even if you're asking questions late in the interview, remember, I always want you to be thinking what? You're going to win. You're going to win the whole process. There are many interviews that you're going to have with that company. But in the first one, even in the screen, you can ask the recruiter, what are your biggest problems in achieving the team's goals, right? Kind of thing. And you don't want to just think in terms of your particular position, because the more information you could get related to the problems and what they have, the greater you can pull out stories, answers, different techniques that you've used. So look in terms of the position, the team, and the company. And once you get that information, you can use that information throughout the entire interview process for subsequent interviews, right? So try to get it out in the first interview as soon as you can. But let's say you go from the recruiter screen or HR screen to the hiring official. Get it out with the hiring official, right? Start leaning on this in that discussion and in subsequent discussions as it relates to you, your position, the team and its goals, and the company in general, and depending on how high a position that you have in an organization. And then what you want to do is you want to approach this in a very consultative manner, because what your tendency is you want to show how great you are. You want to talk about how much experience you are. You want to talk about all the skills you have. Except that, remember this, you don't go into an interview and say, well, I have this skill and I have that skill. That doesn't do any good. The skills that you want and the way you want to relay that to the interviewer is that the interviewer deduces you have the skills because of the way you wrap them in the stories you tell. If she has done that and walks me through the way she accomplished that project, she must be able to. That skill, that experience. If she talks about in a case study like format or in the future or a position or problem that I've posed for her, and she's able to tell me that she would do it that way, she must know this. That's where you want them to draw out your skills from. So when you do that, before you start talking, before you start iterating in this Q&A period of yours, start to learn how to use these kind of expressions. Well, we had that problem too. That specific problem where I was. What have you tried already to solve it? You have that problem. Have you tried anything? Right? Don't jump into answering or iterating just yet. Have you considered trying this? What happened when you did? We encountered that too. Right? Before you drop the pedal down, make sure you know where the center of the dartboard is. Right? So who's tracking so far? What's the rush? How long's this take? Not very long. Especially when you're showing your investigative skills, your analytical skills. The fact that there's no need to rush. What's the rush? Right? We're all so worried, but if you step back, relax, ask the questions. These take mere seconds, and we'll get them talking down a path to where you get it to the spot where you know you're in the right territory. There's the center of the dartboard. Then all I have to do is walk up and put the dart in there. Would you say that's your biggest challenge? Sometimes people think this is their problem. Have you considered this might be your problem? Are you sure this is your biggest problem? Is this your biggest challenge? By the way, this particular question asked to different people along the interview process might yield different answers. Well, it's their biggest problem, but my biggest problem is this, right? So this one question takes you down different paths, right? You got to gauge where you're going. But assuming that you know what you're doing, assuming that you're interviewing for a position that where you have some skills, right? What are the problems that you have specifically in achieving that goal, right? I know as a marketer, you want me to help you generate more leads. What's your biggest problem in doing that? Our problem is our budget. No, we have infinite budget. We don't have anybody who knows how to run a Facebook ad. I don't think anybody knows how to run a Facebook ad, by the way, but you get the idea, right? So don't just dive in, right, to solutioning before you have all the information, all right? So that's number one. And then the second technique that I like to do is sometimes problems are new problems, right? Sometimes problems surfaced where there weren't any problems. So the second question I love to ask people is, were you ever better off and regressed? Like, have you always had that problem? Was things humming along and then you fell down? Like things were growing. Or maybe you were growing, but now you're plateauing. Okay, well, you were growing and now you're not. There could be many reasons for that. Everything, the customer service department could have been humming along fine. And all of a sudden, even those same six reps are now getting poorer scores. Kind of thing. You follow me here? What's the answer to this question? Any of you that do anything, here's your answer. When they say, as a matter of fact, we've noticed a slight pullback in. As a matter of fact, that was working fine and it broke. As a matter of fact, somebody left the team and we hired in a frenzy and we hired the wrong person, and now we have problems, right? You pick any issue where somebody has regressed, and I guarantee you the answer can be found in what? You got away from doing what you did best. You got away from what? Your routines. You got away from your consistency. If you hired somebody in a haste, did you relax your standards and criteria of what you were looking for in a skill sets and character traits and so on and so forth? I guarantee you this is the answer. This is the answer to that question for everybody that was doing well and now breaks. Yes, I understand. They say, well, it was easy for me to go from $1 to $2 and $2 to $4, but now I don't know how to go from $4 to $8. It's the same process, except there might be iterative steps that you have to go through, but the stuff that got you there will, if augmented properly, get you to the next level, contrary to what a lot of people think. So anyway, so I want you to, as you are interviewing with organizations, I want you to make sure that you are adding these two questions, plus my little follow-up questions, but what problems do you have specifically? And you might need to package this up in a manner that suits whatever your function is, but you want them to get to the specificity of what the issues are or what they suspect the issues are. If you could walk them through a thought process that gets them to the answer or then allows you to solution it for them, you're gonna get hired. If you do this and you simply ask them as a person who is completely detached, has no emotion, isn't looking in the forest and the trees, right? Isn't in the forest all the time, but has got the aerial view because you come in from the outside, and you ask these things, right? You're gonna sound like a genius, even if it was so common sense and duh to you, okay? So I want you to add these Add these questions to your arsenal. Pull them out as early in the process as you can. But don't worry if you ask them late in an interview. Get the information and then use it. Figure out a way to use it in the subsequent interviews. Okay, hope you enjoyed that. If you're here with me live, we're going to the Q&A. If you're watching this on the recording, I'll see you next week. But no matter who you are, I hope you enjoyed this. Make sure to click the like button, subscribe to the channel, and join me on Tuesday mornings for new videos, recorded videos every week, as well as my Thursday live office hours as well. All right, y'all have a great week. See you soon.